Picture this. You're at an event that used to light you up. Same faces, same music, same vibe, but something feels off. The energy that once fueled you now feels distant. Your tribe has drifted, the thrill has faded, and suddenly you're questioning if you even belong here anymore. Maybe it's nostalgia keeping you stuck. Maybe it's the fear of missing out. But what if this shift isn't a loss? It's an invitation to something new. Welcome to Swinger University. I'm Ed.
And I'm Phoebe.
Today we're talking to Kel from Expansive Connection, and we're breaking down what it means when your desires evolve and how to embrace change without guilt. It's time to let go of self-judgment, rewrite your story, and step boldly into the next chapter of you. Let's dive in.
Kel is a certified adult chair coach, certified relational therapy coach, and certified I knew I was going to mess that up. Enneagram.
M&M's.
Kel's going to fix that in a second here. Specializing in relationships using the adult chair model, she guides individuals in uncovering their true selves, cultivating self-love, and deepening their ability to listen to their inner voice. If you're feeling stuck on a sense that life holds more for you, Kel will help you explore your path to a fulfilling, one-of-a-kind life and turn it into reality. She also works with singles and couples seeking lasting transformation in how they connect and communicate. With Kel's guidance, you'll rediscover self-love and reignite the spark in your relationships. So welcome, Kel.
Thank you.
And please correct my flub.
So Enneagram is the word you were trying to say with a little fumble there. Yes. So I am thrilled to be here, and yes, happy to talk about all of the things that Ed so eloquently led us up to, but also am certified in the adult chair, which is a podcast by Michelle Chalfant. The Michelle Chalfant Show, I think, is what it's called now, but it is a model for inner parts work, which is very useful in therapeutic coaching, which is what we do at Expansive Connection. I also am Enneagram certified, and the Enneagram is just a tool to better understand personality. So there's lots of great personality tools out there. The Enneagram is just my favorite personally because it really digs in deep on why we do what we do and helps us to understand ourselves and also the people that we love and live with. So it is very useful. And yes, I'm happy to be here to represent the team in Expansive Connection with you guys today.
Nice. Yay. Welcome. We're so happy that you're here with us today because the journey of opening up your relationship and sharing your partner with somebody else in any form is challenging. It really is a very personal growth process.
Yeah, definitely.
And resources are really important. When we first started, the resources weren't there. All we had were podcasts really to listen to, and everyone's experience is different, which was great. It gave us a lot of things to sample from, but sometimes you just can't find what's unique to you. And that's why your guys' service is so great and wonderful, because you listen to people all day long, all week long. And you've got this wealth of information from a bunch of couples and singles experiences as they're going through this journey. So we are super excited that you're here.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting. We at Expansive Connection are 4 coaches, but we all also are walking our own road on E&M. So we do it differently. Each of us do it a little differently, of course, since there's so many different ways to do that. But we all are practicing that in our own lives and our relationships. So I think it does, to Phoebe, your point, give people perspective. It gives us a way to help people from being on the same side of the street with them, and maybe not just being compassionate to the side of the street they're on, but actually having, swept the sidewalks and mowed the grass and cleaned the gutters on that side of the road with them. So yes, very happy to work with people. And we really focus on relationships because, like you said, that's the hard part of opening up is how do I share this person and how do we manage our relationship as it changes and grows and evolves and devolves and all the things that happen when we try to become different people.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of evolving, so we've kind of titled this episode as an aging out, and that's kind of our turn of phrase on the whole thing, but it's less about age and more about maybe habitualization and like just doing the same thing over and over again, and it kind of loses its luster, right? It's lost that new swinger smell, as we say. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we ourselves are 11, 12 years in now, and we're experiencing that type of lackluster, and some of it has to do with our tribe disappearing and trying to find a new tribe. Our tribe is fractured because things change. For some people, it's some of our friends, they say that they're just too old, and I don't agree with that. I think, I mean, I understand that's the perspective, but I know a lot of people continue that as they age. And then we also wanted to kind of get your feedback on, how do you start again or make it fresh, or how do you renegotiate all of that? So that's kind of where we're starting right there.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because I agree with you, Phoebe. I don't think that there is an age limit to this. It's not the opposite of getting carded when you're going into a bar all excited with your fake ID. And then there's some opposite end of that at the swinger hotels where it's like, oh, sorry, sir, your ID says you're a little too old to get into this event. And we've all seen couples that are, into their 70s. Maybe even older, never want to go up and ask them unless they offered it, but that are still enjoying resorts and parties and friends and some of the joy and the fun and the levity that E&M has to offer. So yeah, it doesn't feel like it's just some arbitrary number on the birthday cake. But I think there is something to this idea that the same thing sometimes that lights us up getting into something new, so we'll talk a little brain science and geek out a little bit here, is also what sometimes fades away and makes us not so motivated to do things. So, the brain's an interesting thing that runs our whole lives. And most of us that have been in E&M long enough have heard of NRE, this new relationship energy that the brain gets really, really hopped up on all the dopamine and serotonin that meeting someone new kind of lights up in our bodies. And that actually happens with any kind of novelty. The brain does the same thing about a fun activity. If you've ever gotten into a new hobby, a new sport, a new book series, your brain does the same thing. It gets really, really excited, and suddenly all you want to do is play pickleball. All you want to do is bake sourdough. All you want to do is finish the next chapter in this book series. So the brain loves new. It loves the idea of brand new stimuli and getting it all worked up and sending all of these hormones through our body that say, this is new, this is fun, this is exciting. And that happens in all kinds of things with people, of course, the kind of classic NRA, but also with activities. And so for a lot of people, when they get into non-monogamy, they find themselves in that space of loving the novelty of something they have never done with people they never knew existed in places they didn't know were even possible. And so that becomes very exciting and a very big driver of why they're showing up to do it. Well, what happens when, say, for you guys' example, a decade goes by? Well, the brain can't create that kind of energy for that long of a period of time around a new thing, because guess what? Suddenly it's not so new. 5 years, 10 years in, this isn't new. This is familiar. And so all of the things that really get people going sometimes fade away, and without something else to kind of backfill all of those brain chemicals, when you settle into familiar, it can be easy to kind of not be able to kind of generate the enthusiasm, the energy to keep going into something, especially when there's struggles in terms of people quitting going and you're losing friends. And so suddenly there's some sorrow there. Well, that's a big hill to climb.
Yeah. we know when we first got in, pretty much every event was like amazing. It was like a level, 12 experience because it was new. It's something that we'd never experienced before. It's like having that new food for the first time, or, that new hobby that you have that you just invest everything into. And we kind of rekindled that as we went because it was a new location or it was a new group of people. And I think a lot of our kind of lack of NRE, if you will, is that we keep seeing the same people at these events, and it's become kind of like the typical crowd. And we've either run our course with that particular group of people, or we just didn't have an attraction to them, or it's just like, it's going to be the same thing, and I'm just not excited to even show up at the party, let alone engage and move forward with that. So what are some things that we can do to help with that?
Sure. Well, I think really it's finding everything in life that we're trying to make ourselves do, or try to keep ourselves doing, or just interested in doing. We really do better as humans if we create a sense of why. This question of why we do something, why is really a motivator. So when we start anything that we want to do for a long time, we really can come up with, usually, unless it's, we just drank too much and there we were and here we are and what do we do? Those are, of course, usually not as quite as thought out ideas, and those can sometimes turn out to be a lot of fun, but they're not sustaining. Sustaining things for our systems, whether that system be ourselves or our relationship, usually need a good motivation. And the motivation, of course, is going to be the why. So the why for you guys that existed 10 years ago most likely does not still exist. And so if you're trying to chase the same why and finding it empty, you're just not putting enough gas in the tank to go. So a lot of times we'll talk to couples and say, sometimes it's a good idea to sit back down, pad and paper, pen and pencil, and say, why would we put the time and the energy and the emotion and the money and any other resource that you guys are putting into this activity now? And that can become a real start from scratch mind map brainstorming thing, because maybe some of the people that would have been in part of your why 5 years ago, like Phoebe said, are no longer present. They're not even here anymore. Well, then that's not a why. So it's digging into, and I always challenge people in any couple, there are 3 whys. There's my why, there's your why, and there's our why. There's the us why. And so I've challenged people before as a homework assignment after coaching to go home and literally make a column, me, you, us. And then what is good for me still here? What would be a challenge? What would be a push? What would be a motivator that could create enough energy, enough momentum to get us to go to places? Maybe we need to go to different places. Maybe the new motivation is we'd like to travel and do this. And so we're not seeing the same people that we love in our neighborhood and our town, but instead we're going to take this on the road, and we're going to start to go to events that are in different cities and different towns, maybe even different countries. Maybe the motivator is we'd like to be, to some of Phoebe's friends, maybe we are the older people in the crowd now, or at least in that segment of the population. Then maybe we want to try to invest in some younger people that we see coming on the scene with some insight. We want to mentor people now. We want to take people who are new and befriend them, and be a way to kind of pass on the lessons we've learned and help their road be maybe a little easier or just different than ours was. So there's all kinds of whys, but without a clear one, we will really suffer from a lack of initiative, a lack of enthusiasm, and a lack of energy to go and do these things that we once enjoyed and could enjoy again.
Yeah. We've done a little bit of that why analysis, and when we were under a lot of stress and we needed to regroup, we shut down the podcast for about it was supposed to be 3 months, but I said I need another month. And it helped us regroup and figure out that why. Why are we doing this? And this was last year, and the reason we came up with is the community. We couldn't just give it up. I mean, it was so integral in our lives that we had to keep networked, and we started finding ways to do that and keep giving back. The podcast is one of the ways that we keep getting back. When Ed and I sit down and talk together in front of the microphone, these are some of my most favorite moments, because we're connecting in a very real way. And I think a lot of it is that very purposeful conversation. It's the eye-to-eye contact conversation.
Right.
And we're engaging mentally and sharing information. We're having fun doing it. And I didn't want to stop doing that, and he didn't want to stop doing that. And we did. We realized we do like to travel, and we're going to have to start traveling now because our community is somewhat fractured and different here. And so we are starting to do that as well. But the focus has shifted too. It's not about the sex anymore. Somebody new and different, right? It's not about that anymore. It's about the people, really, because you can just be so authentic with everyone. You could talk about anything, and people are just very open and non-judgmental, and that's what's lovely. It's like being at a nudist resort, right? You just take off your clothes and you walk around. You're like, no judgment. You just feel free. And it's funny I'm using that analogy because I don't like nudist resorts. I mean, I don't actually really feel comfortable there. I can go, but it's not really my thing. But it's still kind of that.
Yeah, it's that shedding of your preconceptions and your baggage, right? You're just kind of dropping all of that and just being there in the moment with people and just enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's a beautiful analogy too. And anybody who's ever been to a clothing optional resort will instantly understand that non-judgment. It's just like, oh, it's just like another Thursday here. I mean, it's very relaxed and but also I think something metaphorical happens when people take off their clothes. They tend to take down their guard in a lot of other ways too. And so you get these really rich and really deep conversations with people about things that really, really matter, versus surface level talk that happens a lot with people that we know. And so there is something to be desired about, again, these, not just the conversations you and Ed are having, which are beautiful and you let us sometimes listen in on, but that you can have those kind of conversations with other people too is really a wonderful why to continue to create community in this open environment.
What happens with couples when their needs change? Maybe one of their partners wants to continue the lifestyle. They want to continue having new sexual experiences, or maybe they decide, it's not sex. It's more they want to experience maybe the BDSM side of those types of sensory experiences, and their partner could either care less or they want some. We're talking, different, right?
Sure.
Things are starting to transition.
Right. The whys have deviated, if you will.
Yeah.
They've kind of split a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And first, let me say that also it's always a valid, like just saying, what, this isn't for me. Just like any other hobby, just like any other interest, is never something to be, to chase to the ends of the earth. You have to find a why. Sometimes there's just not a why for people. Sometimes people had a why, and again, maybe a decade has gone by and they just can't generate another one, or their life has changed and now maybe they have grandchildren, or maybe they have different financial responsibilities, or maybe their health is different. And so I always want to say that, to say this no longer meets my needs and no longer is just something that I have a capacity for is extremely valid and one of many options for people to say. So to your point, what if one part of a partnership, one part of a couple says, I just don't think this is for me. I don't think I can add this in with all the other things that our life has now includes. And the other person says, well, I want to. Well, I think what happens is what happens about a lot of things for couples. And we just do it so naturally. We don't really think about it this way. But that is, we enter into negotiation. So being in a couple for more than 5 minutes means that we have shown up to the table to negotiate with another human being how to get our wants, how to get our needs, how to get the things that we just desire done, and then also how to have this other person do that same thing. And so couples, that's a lot of time where couples will come to see a coach, is to help in that negotiation process. Maybe they feel like, and it's really interesting. I really take this coaching from sort of a business background and really treat it that way and say, okay, well, here's all of the options for your negotiation. How willing are you to accommodate your partner? Accommodation is just one of the places on negotiation. How much compromise can we find here? Can you move a little left and they move a little right? Is there a new way to see this that's not all or nothing, but somewhere in the middle? And sometimes couples can use negotiation to create consensus, which is different than compromise. It's sort of like creating a brand new idea, not I lose a little, you lose a little, but really this sort of start fresh with, well, what do you need and what do you want and why do you want that? And how could that be fine with me and not bother me at all if you wanted to go and explore BDSM play with someone and I was not involved? What would I need to feel safe about that? What would I need for there to not be any resentment about you taking the time and the energy away from us? And that conversation is really kind of building or creating a new thing, which becomes this consensus decision that we negotiate out. So couples can do that in a lot of different ways. And sometimes they just aren't used to the skills, or they just haven't done it around something maybe that's as tender or as sensitive as sexual ideas and sexual openness.
Yeah, we've definitely come to a kind of a consensus in terms of what we wanted to do. And we talked about traveling more and wanting to see parts of the world. There's so many things to see, right? Our bucket list just, it doesn't get any shorter.
No.
We keep adding locations that we want to go see and things that we want to go experience. And we're starting to think that maybe this travel aspect, traveling to Europe, and we make it maybe a blended vacation. So a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of some swirl in there, and we get some sprinkles. We hit Amsterdam, we hit, London, and we find a club. And we do that one night, but we're there for a week.
Right.
So it's something different. We get to experience something different. We get to kind of maybe recharge some of that swinger energy.
Yeah.
But we haven't compromised. Neither one of us have lost what we want to do. We're just doing it a different way, as you said.
Absolutely.
What's your advice for people that have a lot of FOMO? Because it's very real. They're in chats, or they see an event on Instagram or something, and they want to go, but they they can't, or they've booked too many and their finances don't allow for them to go, and they just have this just this doom of FOMO looming over them. What's the best way to kind of break out of that or reset from feeling like that?
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, it's probably going to take a little bit of digging to figure out what's underneath. Fear of missing out. What is scary to you? And, to me, is it jealousy? I'm jealous that, other people are doing something, and it feels like I'm not getting to go, and that's taking something away from me. Usually, especially if it's not your partner that's involved, jealousy is sort of like this universal scarcity mindset. Like, well, the whole world and all the fun is a big pizza, and if these people are taking a big slice over here because they're in Hito and they're having a great time, and I'm sitting on the couch, that's taking something from me for them to have this other thing. And so, is that my mindset? Is my mindset that this is somehow costing me something for these other people to be joyful? And then that's a place to dig. And this is sort of thought management work. Well, how do I think about fun in the world? And sometimes that is a root of jealousy for people. Sometimes it's an envy thing. I want what those people have. And that stirs in me kind of a yucky sadness. But can I use that to generate, because negative feelings or harder feelings are just as powerful to get us to move. They're just as powerful to generate energy as positive ones. So we can also kind of harness that envy and say, wow, well, what is this telling me? It's telling me that I wish I was having some fun. Okay, well, maybe the budget doesn't allow me to go to Hedo, but maybe the budget allows my partner and I to go out and dress really fancy and get a hotel room in our town. And we're going to make a big night of it. And we're going to really go uptown. And we're going to maybe even do some role play while we're out and pretend to be on a first date or any kind of imagination thing, just to harness some energy that I'm envious that other people are seeing. So, it could create fears of, as we talked at the beginning, wow, maybe this is slipping away from me because I'm getting older, or my finances are getting tighter as I do get older, or our time is getting more limited. So I think really looking at what's happening behind that feeling of fear or whatever it represents, and then figuring out if those thoughts are serving me and if those thoughts that I'm thinking can actually push me in a direction that would make me feel better or create something new for me is really the hard work, because that's hard work. It's easy to just feel miserable. Oh, everyone's having fun but me, and kind of swirl in that negativity or that hard versus stepping out of that and going, well, wait, what am I thinking here? Do I think that them having fun is costing me? Well, that's not how I want to view the world. So I'm going to stop ruminating on that thought. Or am I thinking that they're doing something fun and I want to do something fun? Well, let me put that energy into pursuing something fun within my scope, and let me go do that. So I really push people to get underneath it and see what they can do about those hard feelings.
Yeah, it's great that you bring that up. It's been a while, actually, since we've talked about jealousy and envy. We did an episode pretty early on about that. And I think it's important to kind of reinforce that a lot of the feelings that we have kind of get shoved under those umbrellas, and that there is really that's more symptomatic of something underlying, something else that's going on. And I love the fact that you kind of say, use that energy and flip it.
Right.
It's kind of like adversity is the mother of invention, right? So you're like, hey, I've got this problem that I have to solve, and I love solving problems. That's my thing. So it really is this opportunity to create change in your own life and kind of figure out what that underlying thing is to better your situation, to better your mood. And you're so right in terms of it's very easy to sit in that space. All you have to do is watch the news, open Instagram, any social media platform, and you can instantly feel this FOMO or this overwhelming sense of dread, because there's so many things going on in the world where we're just like, it's hopeless. Like there's nothing we can do. And we all have to do a better job of trying to reframe our thoughts and think about things in terms of, well, what can I do about it? Like, it's okay to acknowledge those feelings, but like, now, what are you going to do about it? Where are you going to go with this? So it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. It's like I always look at it as like the pie, the pie of life, right? Where maybe the pieces of your pie got a little off balance, where, maybe too much, time is spent on one area and you're neglecting maybe the another area, and you need to kind of rebalance. And then that FOMO is, like you said, right in your face. And then digging down into it and going, what is it? Where, what is going on? Why am I feeling like this? And then you start to see, wow, I guess I should, should, try not to say should, work on this, right? Look at this and supplement that in a different way. If I can't do this, then, like you said, I really like that idea of, interjecting that fun in a different way.
It pops into my mind too. It's like, hey, all of our friends are at Hedo hanging out doing their thing. Well, no, not all of them. You probably have friends at home who didn't get to go to Hedo too. Maybe you have them over for, a drink, go out on a date night with them, go see a movie, like whatever. It doesn't matter. Create your own fun space with the people who didn't necessarily get to go. And, it's a great opportunity to reach out to people who you hadn't talked to in a while and say, hey, I'm feeling a little left out. So I thought I'd help and contribute. And I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. What a beautiful use of that energy. And, emotions are just our brain telling us to do something. That's the funny thing about emotions is that it's literally just a neural synapse coming from your brain into your body in this form of feeling. And the brain is just trying to get you to do something. And sometimes the thing is just to be joyful and take in the moment. But sometimes the thing is to move. Get up off the couch and do something. And if we listen to emotions and then act on them, we tend to actually feel less of the feeling because once we're in an action state, we're really not in an emotional state anymore. And so what happens is when people don't move and they just sort of ruminate, the emotion just gets bigger and bigger and heavier because it's not actually being used for what its purpose is. And it just doesn't really know what to do with itself. So it's just like, well, I guess we'll just add story and stay here and mope around in this emotion versus taking it as a stimulus to go and find something else to do, to say, to think about, and all of those things. So yeah, excellent.
Yeah, it's that kind of downward spiral, right? Where that sense of emotion that you're feeling, whatever it is, if you sit in it too long, it just keeps building on itself, which is kind of crazy. And I think getting out and going and doing things, I think that's been one of our solutions too. And a lot of times when we feel overwhelmed, we'll go backpacking, we'll go on a hike, we'll go do something different. And it's really hard to be in that couch mood and that kind of doom scrolly mood when you've got nature around you and birds flying and the sun is, amazing, or it's raining on you, whichever one, right? Like nature has a way of kind of breaking us out of that. So there's something that each of us really enjoys doing. And I think that's an opportunity, a motivation to go do it. It's maybe you can answer this because it's a brain chemistry thing. Is this tied into that whole fight or flight, kind of that lizard brain that we all have, where our brain really has kind of a something's wrong or I'm doing okay, and is it that's being triggered?
Well, I think anytime that we feel emotions and our nervous system gets involved, then we're dealing with old sciencey brain chemistry. So I think it depends on what's being tripped in my system, for example. So if my reaction historically to hard emotion, heavy emotion, emotions like fear, anxiety, difficulty, being left out, being, judging myself poorly or not worthy enough, is to freeze, which is a nervous system reaction. Then all of a sudden I freeze, but we all have these little computers in our hands. So it's very difficult to freeze and actually not take in any data. We just still taking data. And of course, what data do we take in? More data that keeps us frozen. We tend to, of course, the algorithms are going to point us that way anyway, but we just choose to be in this state of more fear, more anxiety, more worthlessness. And so that freeze that maybe was a nervous system or a lizard brain reaction isn't really serving us because we sort of double down with technology or we double down with those things. Whereas some people feel difficult or hard emotions and they instantly go into action, more of a fight. They're like, okay, well, I don't want to feel this way. And so I'm going to find this a motivator to get up and go out, to go outside, to go speak to someone I love, to listen to a podcast and have a walk, to get online and find out when the next event is that I could go to and could use closer to me or further away. They spring into action. So yes, anytime our nervous system is activated, it's just going to be how we respond and what our go-to to keep ourselves safe, because that's what the brain is always trying to do. That lizard brain always wants to keep us safe. And for some of us, safety means stay on the couch, don't move, don't don't move a muscle, you'll just make it worse. And that could be a hard place to be. If we are those people, that's okay. The biggest thing to do is to know that about ourselves. If I have a tendency to do the same thing over and over again, the minute I realize I have a tendency and step back a little bit and have some self-awareness and say, wow, you know what? Every time I get on this platform and see all of my friends going and dressed up and whatever, I feel bad in some way. That doesn't seem to be serving me. And from that badness, I waste a Sunday afternoon on the couch to get nothing done and feel terrible about myself. Gee, maybe I need to back up and choose something different. Just being able to pull yourself up and go, hey, I notice maybe this is enough for our brain to kind of disconnect from us and be a little bit more of a watcher and a little bit less of a doer. And from that place, we can actually choose change. It's like, wow, I don't think this is serving me. And you know what? I'm not going to pick up my phone on Sunday mornings anymore, first thing, because that's what everybody's posting their Saturday night fun. And that always gets me riled up. So instead on Sunday mornings, I'm going to choose to have coffee with a friend, go for a hike, meditate, go to a yoga class, read, whatever. But it's not going to be the same thing that keeps me stuck.
Yeah. And it sounds like this is also something that we can kind of train ourselves to do, right? That whole fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
So if you do tend to be one of those people that freezes and you have this realization, then you can start to say, well, I'm going to take an action instead. Like you said, put the phone down, don't do that. So this is something I think that we can train ourselves out of. And it's just like, no, I'm recognizing this and now I'm going to take a different action. Yeah. That's great. I like that.
I was also thinking about, you were talking and it triggered a thought in my head about when we've seen a lot of friends get in the lifestyle and you ever heard that term where you're fast friends and you do everything together all the time, talk every day, and you just like burn out. Mm-hmm. Like you're fast friends and you just burned the friendship out because it was so fast, so hot. Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot of our friends do that where they're at every event, like every week, like Wednesday, every weekend. And then they keep amping it up and amping it up. And all of a sudden they're vanilla hunting and they're like, having a vanilla yoga teacher over to their house. And all of a sudden there's a threesome. And it's just
these are very specific examples, by the way.
And then all of a sudden, they're gone. They just disappear. And you're like, whoa, what happened to them? They're like, gone. It's like this burnout. How do you, it's like, I feel like it's a drug, where people just get addicted to that energy and then it's just done. And I have a great amount of sadness over that because we've seen so many friends do that. And then they don't want to have anything to do with anybody in the lifestyle. And even though I say, oh my gosh, we could still go to dinner. We're not going to like hit on you or, we're still friends with you. And they're like, no, we can't. And it's always a mourning process for me because I miss them and I want to be their friend, but they've stopped. So how do you like slow down or I don't know. I guess it's like a drug. You don't know any advice?
Well, I will say for the people who are going really fast, and if they have someone caring enough to say, gee, you seem to be amping this up and amping this up and amping this up, I think that's sort of like getting a brand new sports car and seeing how fast you can drive, how often you can drive, how dangerously you can drive. The brain does like that, amp up. But there comes a place where a lot of times that burning so fast and so hot burns us. And so I think then what happens is that when it burns us, we don't want anything to do with it anymore. I've wrecked the sports car, so I'm going to sell it. I'm never going to get another one because I have kind of carved this part into my brain that says this activity equals hurt, danger. And so if someone could wisely say to them, hey, there's a chance that you are going to end up somewhere that you've amped up because also you probably amp up risk and you're amping up, maybe affection and you're maybe ramping up other people's affections and emotions. You're taking a lot more chances with people or with things or with your money. Yes. And so again, if that goes badly, it may leave a sour taste in your mouth for this whole experience. And I hate to see that happen to something that could be really great for you. That's one thing. I think for you, Phoebe, it's just about allowing yourself to be sad and saying, hey, these other people chose a path that ended in a place where they could no longer, be in this environment. And that really makes me sad. And to just grieve that and feel, the hardness of losing friendships, but then using that grief to let you be grateful and love all the people that are still around and have not burned out in that blaze of glory. So it's just, the compassion for you to say, yeah, this sucks.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel bad and sad that we don't get to see these people anymore. And then again, what we've been talking about this whole time, how do I use that for what I can do? Oh, I can still reach out to people who do take my calls and want to have dinner. And I can maybe mentor someone I see that's younger and open to it, that does seem to be going a little quicker, and share some historical stories of others who this has ended poorly with, just to give them some perspective, not to control them. And, we never have any hope about the outcome. We just can give hope that maybe they'll listen and it'll go differently for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hate losing friends. It's sad.
It is.
I get very attached to them. You have anything else, my love?
I've got this last one, which was the self-judgment component.
Yeah, we
kind of covered that.
We kind of covered it, but Kel, maybe you could do a little wrap up on maybe just honoring that we want different things. And it kind of goes back to that negotiation that I think you were talking about earlier. And then, of course, honoring our preferences and loving the change.
Yeah.
Right. We get so used to, we're like, yeah, I'm in the groove now. Things are going good. Cha, cha, cha. And then something happens. You're like, and you're like, what? And a lot of people are like, oh, then they get frustrated because they're like, no, I want it to be the same. And then how do you honor that part and just go, it's okay. It's a change. We can work with this. It's going to be a little awkward. It's going to be a little uncomfortable, but it'll be fine. And how do have any other tips on how people can do that?
First, I want to say you said that beautifully. I mean, it is about this self-talk and I think anytime something changes, anytime we have to show up and negotiate something, if we can do it from a place of self-compassion, no change that isn't, and Kristen Neff is the queen of self-compassion, and she's written books about it and really has an amazing take on it. But she says no change ever happens and sticks and we have peace with it if it doesn't come from a place of compassion for ourselves. So we think, I'll just kind of bully myself into going to things I don't want to go to. Or I'll just, talk to myself like, come on, you get up off the couch. Why are you being so this, and this? That never works. And so what does work is seeing ourselves as people who feel different feelings and have different experiences and want and need different things, and then allowing that to be and honoring that by sharing it with others, negotiating with our partners in good faith, saying, hey, here's my honest truth. I want to hear your honest truth. I want to be able to understand that and have compassion for you and compassion for me and move forward. Same thing with friendships, to be able to show up and have compassion and honor what people are choosing, but then to not feel that means something's wrong with us if we want something different. It just means we're just people and all people are different. So I think the biggest place that we can really help ourselves is through compassion. And if we can just give ourselves grace, I feel a ton of FOMO. That's okay. Everybody feels that sometimes. It's all right to feel sad and scared and worried. And is there anything here for us to do? And if so, let's think about it. Let's do it. I think that's the starting point for all of that self-judgment and all those places.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It kind of takes us full circle with the whole why question and not compromising, but coming to that place of consensus where everybody's kind of found a nice, happy place to kind of be.
Yeah, that's all. I've used some self-talk a lot lately, especially when I had a friend that says, "Oh, I never experienced FOMO," and I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "How is that actually possible?" Which of course then triggered me even more, and I'm like, "Oh, crying out loud!" Like I'm like, "Well, then what's wrong with me? Like, why do I experience?" Right? Of course, you're just like, and you're like, "Okay, stop it, and then relaxing, doing the deep dive, and then recalibrating, figuring it out, and of course, loving the process because I'm different than other people, but still It bugs me. Still, you can tell. But we have figured it out. We figured out what's working for us now, and it's different. But I like it, and our focus is more on the community and travel and those connections with individuals. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I think this was an excellent episode. And I really want everyone to know about all the amazing classes, courses, retreats, events, et cetera, that Expansive Connection has going on this year, where to find your socials, all that good stuff, because you guys are a wealth of knowledge and a great resource.
Thank you. Well, you can find us on our website, first of all, is expansiveconnection.com/ENM. So that's our fun, spicy, where you can find all our offerings. So everything I'm going to talk about is right there. When you go onto that website, you'll find it under offerings. We're also only on Instagram. It's expansive.connection.coaching. So we have an Instagram page that also has a lot of our information, as well as some resources that we send out for people to find what we're listening to or reading as coaches. Some things we have going on is retreats. We have been really finding that being in person with people in groups is really beneficial for them. They love it. We love it. It just feels like a calling that we're really kind of stepping up and meeting. And so we just finished our first couples retreat. It was actually last weekend. And Catherine and I led that with 11 amazing couples. And it was incredible. And so we're already planning a fall date that's going to be somewhere in the mountains, and a February date that's going to be somewhere on the beach along the Gulf of Mexico. So pay attention to those. They're going to be coming soon. Catherine is also co-hosting 2 women's retreats in the fall. One is called Women of the Lifestyle, and it's October 9th through 12th. And another one is Wild and Wise, Thriving Through Menopause. And it's for women who are somewhere in the scope of menopausal life, and it is November 13th through 16th. And both of those are going to be located in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, so you can find information about those. We also are really excited that we are starting a peer-led men's group. It is going to be meeting twice a month, and it's going to be called Masculinity Matters, and it is going to be a really great place for men to come and have discussions about all kinds of things together. It's going to be led by men, with men. We're really, really excited about these groups. And we think there's something that's really needed. And to just have support, to have companionship, to have, some guys that you can really lean on and talk about the hard things with. And so we're going to have those starting up sometime in May. So if you're interested in those, you'll be able to find out about those. And we are educators, really, before we're anything else. So we are always having workshops. We're always trying to do something where we can teach people, they can spend less than a quarter of an hour time with us, but they can get a whole 90 minutes worth of great information that they can watch over and over. So we are going to have a 3-part sexual health workshop this summer. It's going to be a part for men, a part for women, and a part for everyone. And that's going to be really exciting. So that's coming. And then we'll have more workshops in the fall, because one of us will get a niche to teach something, and we'll just throw a workshop together and offer it to people. So we're really excited about a lot of the things we have going on.
Very, very cool. Lots of exciting learning opportunities for everybody.
Absolutely. More resources than podcasts that we're trying to do for people.
Yeah.
Not that podcasts aren't wonderful, but it's nice, Phoebe, that we have more than just, getting on and listening to the podcast we used to have 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's nice to have more options for people to really lean in on community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Podcasts are very one way. You get to hear us and, what we're talking about. And as an audience member, you can't go, but I have this question.
Right.
And that's really tricky, which is a great segue to our conclusion. But before we do that, we want to thank you for being on this episode with us. We've got a couple other episodes planned with the other members of your group to continue this kind of deep journey into all things self-help, and how to have those great dialogues with yourself and with a counselor or a coach, to be able to evolve as individuals.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And together.
And together.
Yes, couples for sure. Thank you both so much for having us and me here. We really, really appreciate your work in the community, and really are honored to to get to chat with you about these things that really do matter and we all face. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you joining our community. Don't forget your homework. Tell a friend about our show. And if you'd like, leave a review and a comment, because all of that engagement helps our videos to grow and our channel to grow so that more people can see them. You can also leave us a voicemail at 916-538-0482, or you can contact us at swingeruniversity.com. You can even leave us a 90-second message anonymously on our website. And as we like to say, keep learning, keep growing, and keep it sexy.